Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Emmy. It's day 6 of the 12 days of Yule. Also, Merry Christmas if you celebrate. Thank you for spending your Christmas with me, even a part of it with me if you're watching this in real time. The 12 days of Yule is my daily practice where I go from December 20th through the 31st. It's a really good time for me, really good opportunity to think about what feels aspirational for the new year, anything I want to continue, anything that I want to have come to a culmination so that I could begin the new year on a very intentional note. I'm not going to let in everything in the new year. We have to let some things come to a close. Right now is a seed planting time. I have a handful of questions that I use to guide my thought process on this daily ritual. It is very much designed so if you are not terribly witchy, you could treat it like a journaling exercise to close out the year. If you're a practicing witch yourself, then you could spellcast with me, or you could use it as a good jumping off point to clarify any petitions, workings you want to do either now or throughout 2026. But this being day 6 of the 12 days of Yule, with us following the 12-house system of astrology, then the 6th day of Yule is the 6th house day. 6 houses in astrology speak to work, health, and pets. The thing about the 6th house, it can kind of get a bad rap in the astrology world. So we often associate it with illness first and foremost. And it is a house that doesn't really make any meaningful, like traditional aspects to the ascendant. So there's an element of it feeling kind of disconnected because it's speaking to your vitality, your daily life, things that maybe work more so on autopilot. That's part of why it can signify health and everyday toils, the everyday kind of stuff. The other thing that we have to keep in mind when we think about the severity or the bad rap of the 6th house is that ancient astrologers, life was more difficult and complicated then. There's this element of having to recognize the foundations. That's the other element of why the 6th house is also, as more time goes by, people are more associating it with labor rights, with how we work, with wellness, things of that nature, even with it being tied to health, to illness. There is, I think, more of a growing feeling of the 6th house being pointed to healers, people that you go to and seek out for healing, with the 6th house being considered tied to daily toils and labor. Livestock were a part of that labor, and over time it got lumped in that pets were a 6th housey thing. It's an interesting exercise, I think, to look at the 6th house more closely because you can really pick up on where things were beginning and how they've been adapted to modern day living. I think there's really the opportunity to treat the 6th house like a house for practical magic, for doing kitchen magic, for working on integrating how we take care of our physical forms, the additions that we tack on that can be supportive to health overall, treating it more like a mind, body, spirit sort of connection. As always, think about the ruler of your 6th house. I have Pisces as my 6th house. So Saturn and Neptune being in there, it's really a trip. A lot of surprise, confusing things as it pertained to my health that really was clarified around how I work and thinking about creating better systems for my work. Pisces as a 6th house is so very deeply ritualistic about intuition, about allowing for flow and letting yourself create a bit more of the kind of flexibility that you need on a regular basis. I think that's very much reflective of how I've always worked and how I feel I am becoming more aware of what I need as it relates to how I take care of myself physically and how I handle the day-to-day life. Let's get into the questions here. What is your relationship with work? Do you like your job? Do you hate your job? Are you neutral towards your job? Is it time for a new job? Is it even possible to leave your current job? If it isn't viable because frankly the market is nonsense right now, then is there something that you could do either magically or in a mundane way to lessen the impact and to make things feel a little bit more tolerable for you? Is it possible to get your cubicle moved? Is it possible to get distance between you and other people? Can you give people the least amount of access to your energy so that you're able to maintain some better boundaries? Is there something that you could add to maybe your desk as far as it goes when it comes to your practice? So I do have desk altars. I have a number of talismans. I'm not going to tell you what they are and where they are. They're there for a reason. And they have been very supportive, I feel, for helping maintain my energy within my own personal perimeter. Is the way that we're working sustainable? As I've been unmasking my neurodivergence, I've been learning that we consider giving things 100% and what neurotypicals consider giving 100% are two different things. 100% for neurodivergent people or people who are autistic, especially, is often giving things your everything and going at a breakneck speed and burning out, versus for people who do not fall into that kind of pitfall with the black or white thinking, that all or nothing mindset that a lot of us can fall into, is, well, no, I'm not going to give an actual 100%. I would die. So are there areas where you could reroute how you're applying your energy, that you could be scaling back so that you're able to apply as much as actually is needed and not giving any more than is even feasible and sustainable for you? Is it time for a new pet, emotional support animal? Is there an option for adopting an animal that could fit your life, your lifestyle? And, that their care needs are going to get met and your care needs will get met. I wish I could be a dog person, but between being allergic and not having the scheduling capacity, even if we were able to have one, the reality is like having lizards, having reptiles has worked for us in the past and it would continue to. We kept snakes before and that worked out beautifully. So if there is some degree of wanting to add an animal back into the home, then thinking about what is actually reasonable for the life that you live and the lifestyle and things of that nature. If you have a chronic illness, then are you working with or against your body? I can't manifest my lifelong asthma away. It's not going to happen. I can do the work of thinking about what my baseline is, what I have to do to mitigate any symptoms. I could add protective sigils to my medications. I could also do the work of if there's other holistic herbalist kind of perspectives that do not contraindicate the medications that I take. Like, I'm a big fire cider person. We're going to strain our fire ciders. It did feel a lot better when we did make fire cider for the last cold and flu season, on top of other measures we took to ensure that we didn't get sick. And just the time of year, it could just be easy to feel more run down, to feel like you have less energy. So that's something that I also recommend. But we are still humans with human bodies that age and have things go on with them. Do be conscientious of that and be thoughtful as practitioners about where you can weave your practice in. Mundane magic is practical magic, low magic, as it's often said. I hate that term, but it's been a lifelong tradition to weave them together for a reason. So why not go about and do that? Is it time to schedule your workouts or to think more holistically about how you're approaching movement? Again, with having chronic illness, differing capacities depending on the week or even my work schedule, I always want to make some time for walking. I like to have a mobility day, a weight training day, and a cardio day, and a little bit of walking every single day. What can you do to help make things sustainable? And if you know that you're an accountability person, as far as if you pay for something like a class and you will lose money, one, by paying for the class and then being charged a late fee or a cancellation fee, do what you got to do to hack it. If that helps you to build a habit in the first place, to make a priority around your wellness, then that's worth considering. What about rest and recovery? Your mental health? Is it time to find a therapist, to shop around for a new therapist, maybe break up with your current therapist? Not all therapies are equal. I tried EMDR therapy for a hot second, and on one hand, it worked. It also illuminated other problems after going and seeking out a different therapist. I told her about what the experience was like. And then her eyes got wide and she said, "You are actually not a good candidate for EMDR therapy. It is actually making you worse." I would have this whole experience of still dissociating, having derealization, depersonalization symptoms after. That is apparently not normal. That is apparently not okay. And it's part of why EFT tapping is effective for me, because it's not quite the same depth of experience. I'm able to have the positive impact of what would typically happen in EMDR without the negatives. I say, my pomegranate juice is falling out of my pomegranate juice is falling out of my Santa. All right. What supplemental self-care do you know would make you feel better that you've been neglecting or unable to pay attention to? I know that I do better when I cut back on dairy. Have I been doing that? Not very well. If I want to get serious about it and think again about the magical mundane working together, then I could even consider petitions around this. Like, I'm someone who chooses dairy-free options, as opposed to, I never want to have dairy again, for two reasons. One, positively worded affirmations and petitions tend to yield better results. It tends to stick in a little bit better in our minds, because what we do is we end up thinking about the not as opposed to the want. And psychologically, when it comes to that wording, we do better when we're adding in versus subtracting. So I'm not saying I'm never going to have dairy again. I'm saying that I want to ensure that I want to become somebody who chooses things that do well for my body, as opposed to being somebody who cuts things out and then there's no joy. We talked about joy yesterday, that we need the joy. The sixth house is heavy on getting support from the right types of healers. Do you need to lean on a career coach who can reflect back to you a little bit better in the new year? Do you need to do some shadow work to get the mental, emotional, and psychic aspects on lock? I'm very pro career counselor when it's the right situation, when you need that actual logistical, like tangible help. And I'm pro working with a intuitive reader or like an astrologer if you're trying to figure out more of the broad strokes of things. I do think that it's very crucial with sixth house considerations that you're thinking about the full big picture and having a balance. Pick the right medicine to do the right things. The right healing can only come from the right healer. With that, what is your relationship to wellness? Wellness has become a weird, dirty word that a lot of us are wary about now. If you're open to kind of having more of a balanced perspective around wellness in the new year, I highly recommend The Gospel of Wellness by Rena Raphael. A little bit of a blurb that I want to read for you all about it, because again, it was a big game changer for me. I felt myself be reflected a lot in the subject matter, the details about who was falling into certain traps around wellness and who was on the up and coming as far as challenging certain things. The truth is that deep within the underbelly of self-care, hidden beneath layers of clever marketing, wellness beckons with a far stronger, more seductive message than health alone. It promises women the one thing they desperately desire: control. Vividly told and deeply reported, The Gospel of Wellness reveals how the obsession is a direct result of women feeling dismissed, mistreated, and overburdened. Women are told they can manage the chaos, ruling their life by following a laid-out plan. Eat, exercise, meditate, then buy or do all of this stuff. And while wellness may have sprung from good intentions, we are now relentlessly flooded with exploitative offerings, questionable ideas, and a mounting pressure to stay devoted to the divine doctrine of wellness. What happens when the cure becomes as bad as the disease? So again, I'll reiterate. What is your relationship to wellness as a concept and the current state of your well-being? Where has wellness culture let you down? Where can you rebuild by seeking new healers, traditional or integrative? Is it time to find the people who will be honest and have the integrity to tell you what is possible for true repair and what is and isn't actually viable? I want to also close out here because wellness, health, all that jazz, like with things like Ozempic, like always, always, always think about what is the big picture. What is the end game? Your health is wealth. I did not mention at all here that weight loss should be the perfectly healthy goal. Make sure that you're being comprehensive. Make sure that you are taking note of how you're feeling, track how you're feeling, journal it. and make sure that you are advocating for all the testing that needs to be done so we can really understand what's going on under the hood, in a sense. The number on the scale is only one part of that picture, and that's part of why so many AFAB folks are very drawn to wellness culture and to certain types of physical exercise, because shrinking bodies is still something that so many of us have internalized as healthy. But even when I was at my lowest body weight, I was not at my healthiest. I did have disordered eating patterns. And now that I better know and understand what are my health concerns, things that I know are not going to go away, things that can and cannot be managed with medication or even with a magic mushroom out there, consider that there's always more perspectives. If you feel like you're not getting the support that you need, then always seek a second opinion, and do not treat any advice as law that is from somebody who is a rando on the internet. That being said, if you don't like what I said, it's fine, ignore me. I'm a rando on the internet. I want to close out here. Thank you all so much for tuning in for today's video. Thank you all for watching up to now if you've been following along. And I want to take a moment to thank the patrons that made this video possible. I want to do a special thank you for Georgia, Karina, Jess, Laura, the Wowels, and Mallow. Hope that you all have a very Merry Christmas. And it's only one day. We're talking about health and wellness and things of that nature. And part of health and wellness is letting yourself enjoy things, like enjoying food, enjoy your little treats, and know that every day is another day. So do not get caught up. Ignore any shameful comments from your families, if they do happen to make any, about food or your health, because they're not you, they're not your doctor. So tell them I said to piss off. Anyway, I will see you all tomorrow for day 7. Bye for now.